OpenAI just shipped 3 new models at once, Sol, Terra, and Luna, and within an hour the internet had already declared every software developer obsolete. I build AI products for a living, so let me do something the hype cycle never does. Let me read the announcement like an engineer, separate the part that matters from the part that is pure marketing. Sol is the new flagship, positioned for, quote, frontier reasoning and long-horizon agentic work. Terra is the middle tier, roughly last-generation performance, but they claim it runs at about half the cost. And Luna is the small one, the fastest and cheapest, built for high-volume simple tasks. 3 sizes, 1 flagship, 1 workhorse, 1 cheap runner. That is the actual news, and notice I just gave you the entire product strategy in 4 sentences. Underneath all the launch theater, this is not a leap in raw intelligence. It is a leap in packaging, and I do not mean that as an insult. It might be the most consequential thing OpenAI has done all year, but it is a completely different story than the headlines are telling, and if you run a business, the real story is the one worth your attention. Let me explain why the pricing tiers matter more than the flagship. For 2 years, it was that the smartest model was too slow and too expensive to put in front of millions of users. So every serious team ended up building the same awkward machine. Route the easy requests to a cheap model, send the genuinely hard ones to the expensive model, and glue the whole thing together with classifiers and fallbacks and a lot of duct tape. Here is a concrete version. Say you run a support assistant handling 100,000 messages a day. The other 95% are simple. If you send everything to the flagship, you go broke. If you send everything to the cheap model, quality collapses on the hard 5%, and those are exactly the ones that matter. So you build the router yourself. What Terra and Luna actually represent is OpenAI finally building that tiering into the product line, a capable cheap middle and a dirt cheap bottom. If Terra really is last generation quality at half the price, that quietly rewrites the math on half the AI features sitting in companies right now, including the ones somebody shelved last year because the cost did not work. That is the headline I would have written, and do not sleep on Luna, the cheap runner. The interesting frontier this year is not the smartest possible answer. It is good enough answers, at a price and speed where you can call the model on every keystroke. That is a different category of product. When inference gets cheap enough, you stop rationing it and you start putting a little intelligence into places that were never worth a model called before. Luna is aimed squarely at that, and it is quietly one of the more interesting pieces of this release. Now the flagship and the magic words, long horizon agentic work. Here is where I want you to be skeptical right alongside me. Agents that plan, that use tools, that grind away for hours without a human. And every single time the demo is flawless and the real world is a swamp. The problem was never that the model is not clever enough in a single step. The problem is that errors compound. An agent that is 95% reliable per step sounds fantastic until you chain 40 steps together. Run the math on that. 0.95 to the 40th power is about 13%. So when I hear frontier reasoning and long horizon, my first question is never how smart is it in one shot. My question is, what is the per step reliability, and crucially, does the model know when it is wrong? Because an agent that fails loudly and stops is genuinely useful. An agent that fails confidently and keeps going is a liability you will be cleaning up for a week. And no announcement, no benchmark chart can answer that. These models are not generally available yet. The exact language was coming in the coming weeks. That is a preview, not a launch, and that distinction matters more than it sounds. Announcement benchmarks are run by the people who desperately want you to be impressed. Real benchmarks are run by exhausted engineers at 2 in the morning trying to make the thing work on their actual code base with their actual messy data. So when someone shows you a chart today proving Sol is the smartest model that has ever existed, just remember nobody outside that building has run it on anything that actually matters yet. And step back for a second on what this does to everyone else. The moment the biggest lab makes capable models genuinely cheap, every competitor has to answer, and every startup whose entire pitch was "we are the affordable option" just had the floor moved out from under them. That pressure is good for you, the person actually building things, and brutal for anyone selling thin wrappers. Now, if you are actually going to evaluate any of these models, let me save you some pain, because most people do this wrong. They open the chat, type a few clever prompts, watch it answer well, and conclude it is amazing. That is not evaluation, that is a vibe. Real evaluation means building a small set of tasks that look exactly like your production workload, with known correct answers, and running every model against that same set automatically every time. 20 tasks is enough to start, 50 is better. The moment you have that, the entire conversation changes. You stop arguing about which model feels smarter, and you start looking at a number that reflects your actual work. And here is the uncomfortable part. Most teams will discover the expensive flagship and the cheap middle model score within a few points of each other on their real tasks, because their real tasks are not frontier reasoning problems. They are summarize this, classify that, extract these fields. If that is you, and it usually is, then the flagship was never the point. Terra was, build the eval before you spend $1, not after. Let me also say the thing the big labs would rather you not dwell on. The open models you can run on your own hardware have gotten shockingly good, and for a lot of workloads they are now good enough that the question is not can it do the task, but do I want to send my data to someone else's server to do it? If you are a builder, that is real leverage. Even just having a credible local option changes your cost ceiling, your privacy story, and your negotiating position. Use the expensive cloud model where it genuinely earns its price and quietly run everything else on hardware you control. This announcement does not change that calculus. If anything, cheaper cloud tiers and stronger local models are squeezing the awkward expensive middle from both sides, which is exactly where you want the market to go. And one more concrete example, because the support bot was the easy case. Think about a coding assistant. The single-step quality of these models on writing a function is genuinely high and has been for a while. But shipping software is not a single step. It is read the code base, understand the existing patterns, make a change, do not break the tests, handle the edge case nobody documented. That is a long chain, and it is a chain where being confidently wrong is expensive, because wrong code that looks right is worse than no code at all. So when the announcement says long horizon agentic coding, the right reaction is not excitement, and it is not fear, it is show me the harness. Show me it running on a real repository with real tests, and show me what happens when it is wrong. Until then, treat it the way you would treat a fast, talented, slightly overconfident junior, incredibly useful on a leash. So what would I actually do with this today as someone who ships real things? 4 things. First, wait for it to be generally available, and then wait again for independent numbers on your kind of work, not a leaderboard, your work. Second, I would pay very close attention to Terra. If that cost claim holds, go pull the features you killed last year for being too expensive and rerun the math, because some of them just came back to life. Third, I would not rewrite a single thing I do not have to. Good engineering is boring, you upgrade when the upgrade pays for itself. And fourth, build the eval I just described before you switch anything. It is a weekend of work, and it will inoculate you against every breathless model release for the rest of the year, because you will answer the only question that matters: does this do my job better, in an afternoon instead of an argument? And since we opened with the claim that this makes developers obsolete, the boring, repetitive, well-specified parts of the job get cheaper and faster, the same way they have every year. The parts that actually pay, deciding what to build, understanding the messy real-world problem, knowing when the confident answer is wrong, those get more valuable, not less. Every time the tools get better, the leverage of good judgment goes up, not down. So here is my verdict. As an intelligence leap, this launch is incremental. But as a business move, the cost tiering is genuinely significant, and it is the part almost nobody is talking about. Would I build on these models? Yes, Terra and Luna, the moment they are generally available and the numbers check out on my workload. Sol, not until it has survived real contact with real work. That is the honest read. If you want that honest read on every major AI release. New teardown every few days. I will see you in the next one.